Tony Smith is with us now, the former head of UK Border Force. It's all marvellous, isn't it, Tony? Everything's fine because apparently the Navy will be called upon if needed. The Border Force is already doing enough, and it's all going to be marvellous. So, I mean, is there any point in us talking, Tony, given that everything's properly solved in migration?
So she said she'll do whatever it takes, Peter. She's not doing what it takes. We know what it takes. Bringing in the military is not what it takes. What it takes is a complete fundamental review of our legal framework, which demands, and has done ever since the boat started coming, once they get into British territorial waters, the Border Force, the Navy, whoever it may be, are obliged legally to bring them ashore, make them safe, and when they get here, they invariably claim asylum. That is the loop that has to be broken. That is what it takes. It also takes building huge detention centres in and around the arrivals area and deporting them swiftly from the territory. Now, these are the sorts of outrageous things that you would say, well, are completely impossible, but exactly the sorts of things that Donald Trump has done through his executive powers as president of the USA, is that things can be done, but a lot more is going to need to be done than this, because we are seeing, as you showed today, even getting a couple of people out on this new deal, you're going to be bringing a couple in anyway, and just look at the numbers that are coming across today. And I'm worried, Peter, that with a fair weather window coming up, there are going to be a lot more over the next few weeks, which is going to completely drive a coach and horses through this government strategy.
But your position, Tony, is that bringing in the military, as Trump has suggested, actually that wouldn't solve the problem anyway. It's got to be this fundamental change in regard to our laws and the whole system.
Yeah, we do work with them, actually, Peter. I work with them on the Olympics. We work together. There is a lot going on behind the scenes you perhaps don't see about how well we work with the military, the cops, the enforcement. We do. But we stick in our swim lanes, and putting them in our swim lane ain't really going to help this unless there's a war or something. I mean, we can work with them, they can help us. There's lots of things they can help us with. You know, we talk about using military sites to accommodate people, talking about building emergency accommodation, but moving people out on military airfields, to military flights, to send them to places like Rwanda, are all things that the military can do for us. And we would love to work with them on things like that. Put them out in the ocean right now, that's not going to make a blind bit of difference unless you change the legal framework. And so far, I've seen no attempt. In fact, if anything, this government is reversing the legal frameworks that the previous were putting in place under the Illegal Migration Act 2023.
Tony, you know this stuff inside out, and I'm really interested in getting your response to what a couple of our trusted viewers have been in touch about. We have so many people that contact the show all the time. Jane and Ashley have been in touch. I just want to play you a voice note we played yesterday from Ashley, and it raises quite a number of questions that I didn't know the answers to. I think you'll know the answers, and maybe you could educate us about this. So Ashley, we played this yesterday, but as I promised, we'll play it again today. And Tony, I expect you'll have some response to it. So Ashley sent this on the one in, one out scheme. Let's just have a listen to what she said, and maybe, Tony, you can give us your thoughts in a minute.
What I want to know, with the guy that was deported this morning on the plane at 6:15, when he gets back to France, how is it that they're able to deport this guy back to India, but we can't deport the guy back to India? What's stopping us just deporting these people from their point of origin? I know that sometimes we don't know where it is that they've come from, but if France can deport him back to India, then why could we not just send him back and not accept the other person from France? It doesn't make any sense.
So, Tony, what's the answer to Ashley's point there? This guy, this was the guy yesterday, there was an Eritrean today, an Indian yesterday. The Indian will be sent to Paris and will apparently be deported, or could be deported anyway, from France to India. Why can we not just deport him to India?
Well, she's bang on, Peter. We can. We could have. Mm-hmm. We could have taken that bloke off the boat, put him in a detention centre, interviewed him, done his asylum claim, refused him, put him through the appeals process and sent him on a plane to India, same as France could. We could also offer him the vol dep that they're talking about, giving him €2,000 to make a vol dep. All of those, that's what I'm really surprised.
That's a voluntary deportation, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm really surprised they picked him as the first one, Peter. Well, I wouldn't have picked him. I mean, the people that we can remove anyway, we ought to be removing, right? We can remove. Yeah, I can understand the Eritrean a bit, but they're harder to remove. I've got all kinds of problems with them. So, yes, send people back to France that France can't send back, but sending people back to France that France ain't going to send back just seems to me crazy and a real waste of a very, very small number of resources we've got to actually do returns to France.
Couple of points from Jane as well. Jane sent me a message yesterday as well, further to your conversation on this ridiculous one-in, one-out business. The question I can't get an answer to is when the flight arrives in the UK on Saturday, where do they go? Are they already vetted? What happens after Saturday? And do the flights come every Saturday?
I don't know how many are coming or when, Peter. I don't have that. That's insider information, but they will have already been screened. We will have been given information, same as we do with visa applications. They would have been required to fill in data. We will be capturing their biometrics. There will be certain checks done as anybody else who arrives at our ports of entry, and records will be kept when they enter, and then they will be facilitated through the border into the country and given a form of a permission to enter the UK or remain in the UK. So it's a very similar, it's a kind of a new visa scheme, Peter, sort of a workaround visa scheme. But remember, these are people that don't qualify to come normally. If they did, we would have got the visa, right? We are opening up our border to people that we don't necessarily, it's not open to them at the moment.
And the classic question again from Jane, why would the Eritrean, sorry, not the Eritrean, but why would people who are coming over on the kind of one-out side of this, why would they not just claim asylum in France already? I mean, they could do that, couldn't they?
They probably have. Actually, they probably have, and the French aren't very good at removing people either, Pete. There's quite a lot of those people in Calais already claimed and been refused asylum in France, but they just give them a notice to quit the Schengen zone and leave them, really, mainly in the woods. That's their strategy, whereas we tend to put people in hotels, give them lawyers and give them due process. I think that's probably one of the major reasons why we've got a much bigger pull factor than the French have.
Okay, listen, thanks very much, Tony. You've illustrated those points. You've answered what Ashley and indeed what Jane had as well. Really, really interesting. Lots of questions coming in, lots of comments. 0344 499 1000. That was Tony Smith there, former head of UK Border Force. Mike's been in touch from Chichester. He says Starmer will never use the military to remove illegal immigrants in the same way that Trump never will open the USA borders. That's clear as day to most of us. Starmer is destroying the UK. He's doing it with his eyes wide open. Reg says surely stopping people coming into our country illegally is our national defence. And Leslie says I hope Burnham stands, resigns from his mayoral role in Greater Manchester, stands on a so-called safe seat and loses to Reform UK. Well, Leslie, that's a really, really interesting point, and I do think there are an awful lot of what-ifs. We'll get into this a bit later on when we talk properly about Andy Burnham, but there are an awful lot of what-ifs, and I do think that there's no guarantee that any Labour candidate would win at the moment with the huge success of Reform UK. The fact that they're consistently 10 points ahead. There have been over 70 polls since the start of this year. They've been ahead in every single one of them, including one which actually one poll which led to many, many people being elected, nearly 600 becoming Reform UK councillors. That was, of course, the local elections in May, and it'll be fascinating to see what happens in the next local elections this May coming. Also the Scottish and Welsh elections to their various bodies as well. Laura Jane's in Hampshire and has given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Laura Jane, you're the first caller of the day on Talk Drive. Very good to talk to you. What would you like to say?
Well, apart from that, I'm going to be ordering your book. That sounds really exciting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Laura Jane.
Yeah, I mean, I was enjoying yesterday's press conference because I could see Starmer, you know, he was just inside. You could see he was desperately trying to control himself. But what I don't understand is when he was asked these questions, like, for example, and he answered saying, oh, we've got one out, one came out, we sent one back today and we're sending back one tomorrow, etc. I know that's not the exact words he used. Why didn't the journalists come back, or indeed Trump, and say, hang on a minute, all these answers you've been giving us, they're a load of rubbish? And everybody in that room knew, even the BBC and what's she called, that lovely lady from Sky who has a slight lisp. Even that lot, they all said didn't go back. And I
think Beth Rigby was there for Sky, but yeah, you're I mean, they asked the questions. I suppose they just had to deal with the answers they were given.
But I mean, Trump didn't once kind of go, I happen to know that's not true, or I mean, was he just on his best behaviour and was, just
he was on his best behaviour, Laura Jane, wasn't he? He really wasn't. He said a few things that were interesting. He talked about bringing the military in and so on, but I mean, he particularly, I thought in the Peter Mandelson thing, he was very, very well behaved and didn't cause Starmer too many problems.
Yeah, well, I just felt the whole thing was a staged. I mean, it was, to be honest, I was just embarrassed because it didn't have any depth to it. It really didn't. And Starmer just lied his way through. I And it was embarrassing when he said how exciting it was that, one had come out and one was being sent back. I mean, the whole thing was, Trump must have been laughing inside going, one? I don't know. It's so frustrating, Peter, hearing him, but on a big stage like that, a world stage, telling those fibs, it really was outrageous. Outrageous.
Laura Jane, thanks for your thoughts. I really appreciate that. And let me know how you get on with the book as well. We'll talk to Simon Johnson in a second about another element that came up with at that press conference yesterday. This is the recognition of a Palestinian state. That is something that 147 countries do around the world. Another 4, including the United Kingdom, are almost certainly going to do it at the UN General Assembly. Big meeting of all world leaders in New York next week. We'll ask Simon what he thinks about it, especially the fact that there is an accusation anyway, and there was from a journalist yesterday, I think it was one of the journalists from Fox News actually, who said, hold on a second, Starmer, why are you just waiting until Starmer goes? Sorry, Starmer, why are you waiting until Trump goes to actually do this?